I'll introduce our moderator, Angela Boltu, a faculty member of Kogod School of Business. She joined us 2.5 years ago, but she comes with a lot of industry experience working for startup and then AI company. And she'll moderate the panel, two students and two alumni, not from Kogod. Some of them are from Kogod, but others are from different schools. So it should be more fun than I have to careful faculty panel. But take it away.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for sticking around post lunch. I feel like we all need to get up and do 5 jumping jacks or something just to get the blood flowing again. It's been a long day, but I'm really, really excited to be moderating this panel. As Guan Hu mentioned, we are joined by two of our wonderful students and there's like an echo in the mic, sorry, and two of our great alumni. So to my immediate right, or your first left, I guess, we have Aldrich. He is a graduate of Kogod in both 2023 and 2024, and has recently been working with both DHS and Deloitte. So he brings lots of young professional experience that we're going to tap into to figure out what AI means for a young professional like himself. Next to Aldrich, we have Jeff. Jeff is a literature major, or I guess a literature graduate, sorry, from American University, and has had a whole career in marketing and digital transformation, and most recently now has been consulting and working with companies to work through all of their AI governance and integrations, and has a whole wealth of knowledge we're going to tap into. To his side, we have Natalie. She is a senior at Kogod in the analytics major who, graduating this year. You're a senior. And then beside her is Cole, who's a sophomore with a major in SIS and a minor in SPA. Do you want to remind everyone of your programs? Because I got that backwards, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is backwards. I'm a political science major and an SIS minor, although I did start as an SIS major.
So I'll get quarter credit. Maybe better than AI still, but
It still counts.
Still counts. All right. So to just kind of introduce this panel and kind of ground our conversation, I kind of want to hear from everyone, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, and just talk about what role AI currently plays, either in your student experience or in your professional experience. And if you can give us a really good use case or example of how it's impacting your work, I think that would help all of us here. So Aldrich, why don't you start off?
Yeah, I think.
Here,
Sorry. Yeah, I think AI really has transformed in my short period of working, but I've already seen how much it's taken off. Specifically, I would say I do use it a lot when it comes to debugging errors and generating code for all sorts of different models that my supervisors asked me to make. So it's been really helpful with that. One specific example was they were really having a heavy push with automation. So they're having me use Power Query a lot. And that's something that I didn't really have much experience with before. But thanks to the use of AI, I've been able to prompt it and help me create different types of code so that way I can take those functional ideas that they have and turn them into tangible models.
All right, because I'm the old guy on the panel. I don't use that AI. No, just kidding. AI is the lifeblood of everything I do. I mean, I have it open all the time. I use it all the time. It is an assistive technology, and I use that word very prominently. It is assistive. It is not a lead, but it is incredible when you use it to execute and scale. As an entrepreneur, I'm doing what I would have 4 people that used to work for me do. And I can do that alone. I'm literally building a website, vibe coding it, using a visual platform called Lovable AI. So, I mean, it just, it goes on and on and on. And I'm literally, my day job is helping people through their, I would say, AI issues. And I almost feel like I'm an AI therapist because there's so many hangups that come with it due to the widespread proliferation of hype and myths that are in the media today. So it's kind of interesting.
give it a go.
So for me, I've used AI in a few ways. I really like how Kogod has kind of adopted it and like tried to integrate it into our work. But I also, outside of that like scope where they've tried to kind of integrate it, I enjoy using it for like putting in a prompt or putting in like a response that I have and almost having it grade it back to me. I know Cole and I were talking about that earlier. It can help kind of find the bubbles that you have missing in your writing or in an assignment, because once you start glossing over the same thing that you've written over and over again, like you're just going to get used to kind of what's there. So that definitely helps a lot. And I like how you can engineer kind of prompts and start helping you guide in specific ways while teaching you how to do stuff. So in a lot of my iTech classes for the coding or for Excel, I'll like put in where I'm at and be like, hey, like I need to get to X point, but I'm a little stuck. These are my notes. This is what I learned. And could you help me pivot in a direction to meet these requirements given what I've learned? And I've found that it's been really useful for that. I know I used it in like my big data class when I was struggling with relational models. I used it when I took both of Virtue's analytics classes to help just get a deeper understanding of things. So when you use it the right way, I think it can be a really good assistant.
Yeah, I think the word assistant is perfect for how I use AI and how AI really I think should be used. I'll use it mostly for the brainstorming part of anything I'm writing, anything that I'm working on, mostly larger projects, because a lot of our classes will have a lot of different things and a lot of different themes, and streamlining those or finding the best way to communicate that is really important for those larger projects. And like Natalie was talking about, it's really useful in notes as well. Not specifically writing the notes, but dividing my notes and being able to understand and use them the best that I can for studying is something that I use AI a lot for, especially if it's a midterm or a final. It's really, really important that I can split that studying up so I can get the best out of any study session.
Awesome. So I'm going to lean on our students for a little bit longer here, and I want us to kind of talk about the landscape across their experience on campus. So as of right now, for the most part, all of our AI adoption has been kind of insular to particular schools or departments or even differences between professors. And so for both Natalie and Cole, can you guys talk about like what your experience this semester is, or if you look between your spring and your fall semester, like do you think you're confused at all? Is there continuity issues? Do you feel well communicated by all of your professors about how to or how not to use it in each of your classes? Can we go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So for me as a Kogod student, I know Kogod has adopted like the AI disclosure forms and trying to integrate it into our course material. But I will say across the board, professors are using it differently. And I think some are a little more reluctant to kind of pick up AI. And I get it's a scary thing, especially if like you're not used to using it and you're scared of like plagiarism and all of that. But I think there could be a little bit better of like, as we were saying, continuity and how professors want to use it. I can't really speak for outside of Kogod because I've kind of taken all of my out of business school classes, but I think that would help a lot more. And just, I think teaching students how to properly and more ethically use AI would be a lot more useful, because I'm a TA for a freshman Kogod class, and so many of them are very unaware and uneducated on how to properly use AI. And in some instances, they're honestly scared of using it, which I 100% understand. And when they come to me for help on labs and stuff, I try to explain and teach them how to create prompts that AI can help them with their Excel labs, with doing their brainstorming. And I think maybe embedding that in those freshman classes a little bit more, not just in Kogod, but across the entirety of the university would help so much, because I'm very much on the page of if you're not going to get used to using AI, you're going to get left behind, whether you like it or not. It's what's going to happen. So might as well learn how to use it effectively, or else I don't really know what to say. Like, just learn how to use it.
Good. How about Cole? What's your experience?
My experience specifically in SPA and SIS is that it is it's completely not allowed. not at all allowed. Like even using it for outlines, like I'll use it for or notes or something like that. A lot of professors are completely against the entire idea of using AI at all in your work. Um, but I think for SPA, at least this semester, there started to be a bit of a change. I could see that it's not an abrupt change, but it's more of a natural change into it being more okay to use it in outlines and to use it in brainstorming, which is what I've started to do more. And with SIS, they're still sort of against it, and I can understand why, because with international relations and international affairs, ChatGPT isn't as good at understanding what specifically needs to go into that, and it's not good at sources and all of that type of stuff. But with SPA, it's at least more focused, and so ChatGPT, which is what I use specifically, I don't particularly go into a whole lot of other AIs, although I probably should. It's better at it's better at the SPA sort of thing than it is for SIS, because it's just not as versed in the different sources.
Cool. And then Natalie, one follow-up for you. So it sounds like Cole hasn't had a whole lot of direction in AI use in SPA and SAS in your experience, and Natalie has a little bit more in the Kogod side. Has there been a particular professor or assignment or like some kind of communication that the professor has given you in terms of like direction that like you enjoyed or thought was the most helpful, or has it kind of just been you figured it out on your own?
You. I would say Professor Virtue has helped a lot. Like she tries to bring like the technical but also realistic aspects of AI in. She introduced me to Notebook LM for studying, which is similar to how like Cole mentioned he used chat. And she'd really helped me hone in on like my prompt engineering and being able to make it understand what I understand. And we tried to use it a lot in our code. I know that, like to help debug or like to teach me certain parts of it. So I feel like I know you like AI as well, but she's helped a lot with like making me understand it better. And I think a lot of the analytics professors are a lot more like open to it because they realize just the impact that it's going to have on like coding and all of that. So I'll say in like my analytics focus, they've been like, you can rely on it to kind of help you further develop.
Okay. Well, I'll give you your $20 after this. So I kind of want to go to Jeff. So as Jeff said in his introduction, he's kind of now working with businesses on their own individual AI journey. So after hearing both Natalie and Cole kind of share their experiences, does that reflect at all what you see in the real world as businesses try to adopt AI? Are there any like commonalities or lessons learned that maybe we can lean on in trying to get some more governance going? Oh, okay. Sorry. You're using that mic.
Yes, there's a lot of similarity actually, and I think what you see is some people inside the organization, the enterprise, if you would, or a nonprofit, they will adopt, but it's about 20%. And so when I hear this, it sounds roughly the same. And in addition to that, there are some people that just use it in the very traditional rote ways that you see talked about online. I use it to write, I use it to research things, as opposed to, I would say, more advanced users that apply it to their actual problems and needs. So, for example, I was speaking with a bunch of nonprofits last week, and we were talking about creating continuous innovation cycles. You're just using an LLM and a voice recorder and transcriber to basically get better feedback from their donors and beneficiaries so that they can consistently improve. Now, they're not going to do it like Netflix or Amazon every hour or every 15 minutes or however often the algorithm might be updated. But if they're doing that every month instead of every year, that's a massive improvement. And suddenly they have the labor resources to do it because of these tools. So.
Cool. Aldrich, I want to go to you a little bit. So you're a young professional. You just entered the workforce right as kind of ChatGPT was making its waves throughout academia, at least, and definitely businesses as well. Can you maybe talk about what your, very early career has looked like? How has AI kind of changed the scope of your role? Anything along those lines of skills that you've had to learn on the way?
Yeah, so I will say it's very interesting because when the height and rise of ChatGPT and generative AI tools, it was towards the end of my academic career, so I was able to try and experiment and use it and get some experience from there. But then really it's been very, very interesting with my two previous positions, how all the way up from senior managers down to your team leads, there's been a very, very heavy emphasis on the use of AI, and they're really trying to encourage us to find ways that we can use it to optimize a lot of our different processes. I think being a young professional during this time, it's a really great opportunity to take advantage of this circumstance where it's kind of like a lot of people, like, we hear AI as a major buzzword, but especially towards those who have lots of industry experience, they're still kind of also on the same level playing field where, okay, like, this is a new tool that perhaps maybe my younger staff or the ones that have more use with it when it comes to school, they're kind of leaning on us, which has been really interesting. So it's been great. Like, I've been able to create different SOPs, like standard operating procedures, give like a few talks to some of my other teammates about how they can use it, not just for coding and the technical aspects that a lot of people think about, but also in terms of how they can use it for their specific processes. So, an example being, we have this for one of my old projects. We were creating business requirements to build out a specific financial tool. And part of this was every time you change a requirement, they previously had to fill out this form that was like 4 pages long. It was in a very specific format, but no one ended up using the correct format. So someone, most likely me, had to go and manually check and like copy and paste it in the correct process. But then now, like, you were able to use ChatGPT to, or whatever generative AI version they have, to say, here is my template, here are the bullet points, please format it in the correct way. And that was able to streamline and make that process a lot more efficient.
So one follow up to that. So like how did you figure that out? That you could do that, right? Like did your company kind of give you all some training? Did you have to kind of just figure it out on your own? Did you learn something in your very late school where kind of AI was rising? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I towards the end of my classes, we definitely did talk about AI. Actually, Professor Carmel's class, I remember, we talked about like emerging technologies and new and disruptive ways that we were talking about how these different things would impact our industry. And honestly, in the beginning, it was mostly kind of just trial and error, like just using it, seeing how far it could go. From there, it kind of branched off to, once I was working, looking at various resources online, like as simple as YouTube videos all the way to different professor lectures, and seeing what specific ways that it could be incorporated.
Cool. So, Jeff, back over to you. I want you to kind of consider for a moment in your entrepreneurial journey right now, you're about to go hire someone to be your number two. And so, if you're looking to hire people, or is there like a particular skill set now that you're looking for that maybe you hadn't been considering before? Is AI proficiency like top of the list? Is it other kind of skills that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI skills are table stakes now for any hire. And if you look out on LinkedIn at all the jobs that are being published, it's always AI in there. Now, whether or not the company can actually vet that you use AI is another question altogether, which I have suspicions about. But I would say for me, the skills I want to see are curiosity, a willingness to adapt and change, fluidity, creative thinking. Because to me, the proficiency in the tool set matters pretty a little less than you would think. And the reason why is because I assume that the tool you're using today won't be valid in 2 years. For example, OpenAI right now is under a lot of fire from its competitors. So ChatGPT is already losing market share rapidly on the B2B side, could lose market share on the consumer side as quickly. And so next thing you know, you'll be using Gemini or something else. Would that surprise me? Not at all. I mean, we've already seen that in several tool sets. So AI is disposable. The skill set's disposable, but being able to think through how to use tools and adapt to new tools, that's something that's irreplaceable.
Very good. So I want to now ask the whole panel here. Maybe we'll start over with Cole and Natalie so we can give our alumni a little bit of a break. But one of the common themes that we've kind of received from a lot of the wonderful faculty that have presented is kind of this balancing act, right? Like we can't quite ignore AI. We want them to learn it, but at the same time, we don't want them to overly rely on this technology so that they're not actually learning. And so can you maybe as the students describe how you consider this, if at all? If this is like, I've definitely over relied on AI and you want to like own up to it a little bit, this might be a good opportunity too. And then from our alumni, when we get to y'all, maybe some advice you have to our faculty about like, what is this balancing act? So I know Jeff's just talked about being curious and having critical thinking skills. Like, how should we think about this as we integrate AI deeper?
So I think this is definitely gonna bounce back to what I was talking about before, and it starts with like teaching the ethical use of AI and how to kind of not let it think for you, but use it as the assistant we were talking about before. So because many times when I feel like freshman students especially are like coming in, they've never used it before. Some of them will over rely on it when they get super confused, and I understand like they're under a lot of stress. It's a lot to get acclimated to freshman year, but I think if we start from the get-go of this is how you should use it, and don't I would say, I know it's not easy, maybe don't penalize students as quickly if they might be overusing it in a sense, because if we take that, I feel like, roadblock down, they'll be more open to coming to professors to ask questions, to use it better, and to maybe admit if they've used it a little too much. That's a big if, but if we make the like doors open a little bit more, I think it would make students a lot more comfortable, and we wouldn't see as much of the overuse of AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because the main reason why I'll use AI in any sense is when I'm confused about something. Specifically, in one of my SPA classes, I have every single assignment. We have a very, very long rubric and a very specific rubric at that. And I've never used AI in that class at all because everything that we have to do and everything that the professor wants is very clearly communicated. Like you were talking about, clear communication, not only with what you want AI to be, to look like in your class, or what you'd like the student, or how you'd like the students to use it, but also clear communication with everything else is basically the be all end all, because there will be SIS classes where I'm completely confused about the entire topic, and working from scratch with that and essentially creating my own rubric is what I'll do for most assignments. So basically, the clearer the communication is in a class, the less I'll have to use AI. But that doesn't mean I'll use it, not at all in those classes. It'll just be like Natalie's talking about, and basically everybody has said, it's just a very good assistant.
I will say that's a really hard balance, and honestly, something I'm still trying to practice and be aware of. I will say specifically, like towards the end, when I was finishing up and I was starting to get comfortable with using different AI tools, as soon as I entered the workforce, I started dealing with government data. So obviously, you can't just upload that into ChatGPT or any of those open services. So it kind of went, it was a little bit of reality check, honestly, where I was like, okay, like I was able to use this before, but now I'm not allowed to use it for work. I have to think of other ways. And then more recently, as different agencies come up with their own tools that they think are sustainable, and you're allowed to be a little bit more of an environment to practice and use for different tools, that's when I started really thinking about how can I use this as not necessarily as a copy and paste tool, which I know a lot of people think that it's just you can trust whatever it says, whatever the output is, that's what you can use, but more of, okay, so this is explaining how to complete this, like from point A to point B, continuing to ask it questions, and then making sure that you're always validating it with the people who are you're presenting those findings with, to ensure that that information is actually correct and not just a random generated sentence that doesn't make any sense that you can't present to a client. So I think my biggest advice would just to be as open as possible, with your students about this is a great tool. This is a high opportunity that you can capitalize on for getting recruited and standing out in your work, but also at the end of the day, it's still up to you to learn from it. Like you're not going to learn what the lessons that you are taking from these assignments by just copying and pasting. You actually have to understand so that way if you are put in a position where you can't use it, you can still complete your tasks.
So, with a little bit of a different lens, because I do so much training and I've been an adjunct, I'm not as good as y'all, but sometimes they hire me as like, one of those draftees. But I'm a coach, really, is the way I see it. And my job is to really challenge people to embrace this and do so in a manner that's safe. And so I think when we look at the future and what we're trying to build, we're trying to create leaders. We're trying to create people that can think through problems and help businesses and organizations succeed. And so I would challenge them. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to get you in a lot of trouble today, but I would really push them. Let's see what you can do with this. I want to see how you used it. I want to see how you checked it. I want to understand where you corrected it. I want to see where you checked the sources. I want to know how the AI messed up and what you did to rectify the situation, or if you decided that the AI had bonked because, I mean, if you were trained on Reddit, or I guess they call it X now, if you were trained on Reddit and X, you would hallucinate too, right? I mean, so how did you rectify that situation? Did you go out and feed it new information? Did you provide the context it needed? So really push people. And the other thing I would suggest, and this is just something that I have to do every boot camp I run, I do these like 1 month boot camps, and without fail, every 3 months, the tools have changed. So I have to go out and learn these new tools before I teach them. You guys got to use this stuff. You have to use it, because if you're telling people to use it and you don't know how to use it, it's going to be problematic. I'm just telling you. I mean, it's embarrassing for me once it happens every class because something comes out that I'm not aware of. Oh, did you do this? I'm like, and I just have to fess up. Haven't seen that one before. That's awesome. Thank you so much. But I do everything I can to be ahead of the class, and I go ahead and I learn the tools, and so I can show them. I don't have to just tell them. I can give them that example. And I think when I deal with people in the real world, just showing them is just so much more helpful. They're like, oh, that's not what I saw on LinkedIn or wherever. It's very helpful.
So I have one final question for Jeff before I'll kind of open it up to y'all, because I'm sure you all are chomping at the bit with lots of questions. But Jeff, being our resident old man, you're a parent. I know we've met. It's fine. We jest. It's okay. We're both from Philly, so we have to like poke each other's elbows a little bit. But you're a parent, right? And so I think you can bring a slightly different perspective to this conversation because you have a child. And so, I think they're in high school. 15, rough age. But like, what are you having conversations with in your home? Are you encouraging them to kind of explore AI? Are you kind of, backing off a little bit? Can you kind of think from like the parent lens, your approach to AI, like within your house?
Yeah. I don't know. There's all these mics everywhere. It's a great question. And I actually have a child. I'm the disciplinarian. There's always that duo. So this kid's like in full rebellion if I ever give him a hard suggestion. So I'm really hands off. And they hate AI, which is really funny. They have this attitude that AI is ruining the world. And they're a musician and they don't want to do any kind of creative AI. But they are so hooked on social media, just like all their other peers. So every time, I saw this, I'm like, well, why do you think the AI served that to you? The AI didn't serve that to me. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Oh, really? Yeah. Did you ask the AI? Because you can ask it questions now in Meta and Instagram. Of course I did. And so that's how I really work with them. But my hope is that their teachers would do what I just suggested to you, because I think their attitude is going to hurt them long term. And I really just hope they work through this and, give them the space that they need to do it. But at the same time, if they're not using these tools by the time they graduate school in 7-8 years, they're going to be in a world of hurt, just like you had brought up.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have about 10 minutes left, and so we'll open it up to y'all What questions do y'all have? I'm making Sungju run today.
Hi, thank you, everybody. It's really fascinating. My question is regarding one thing both of you students mentioned, which is you use AI sometimes to help you brainstorm. Now we know that AI is mining its data from the internet at large, so assuming that is coming with the answers that will be sort of like your average answers. So one of the things that we are, I know quite a lot of us are worried that in using AI for brainstorm, you're gonna miss the really innovative, unique thinking that you have. Do you have suggestion, or have you thought about okay, I'm using AI for giving me some ideas, how do I improve on that? How do I take these ideas to the next level and do something that is unique that AI can't do for me?
So for me, I definitely don't just start with AI immediately. Like I like to do some of that critical thinking before I start doing any prompt engineering. So I'll come up with my own ideas when we're doing that brainstorming, and then I'll kind of feed it that, and I'll say, this is what I'm thinking, this is where my brain is sort of at. Could you help me maybe lead in a certain direction, give me any extra information about it? And then I kind of start having a conversation back and forth with it, with my own thoughts and like my opinions on it. And I feel like that kind of starts to mold it in a more critical thinking way, because I'm not letting it just decide everything for me. I'm inputting my own thoughts and my own opinions, and I'm telling it when I don't agree with that. I'm like, no, we're not doing this. We're moving on. Like, time to go. So I kind of, that's how I at least integrate it with it, so that AI isn't just telling me what to do or telling me the direction to go in.
And it's definitely something for me that I really try and avoid, is going with that average answer and going with whatever ChatGPT says. So when I do my brainstorming, most of what I'll do is completely just off of the computer, and I'll just completely brainstorm themes and different things that I can take from any notes or any readings that I've had in a class. And then I'll really just use ChatGPT to organize all of that and, sort of get a preliminary grade. And if there's a rubric, I'll ask ChatGPT about the rubric and see if those themes are fitting into what I need to talk about. And then sometimes I'll use it to identify any other things that are along the lines of what I'm thinking. But most of the time I just use it to organize my brainstorming. And that's what I really think it's most useful for, is doing the menial task of organization and streamlining and all of that.
Hi, thank you so much. This is just so very helpful. I also have the question for the students. In terms of guardrails around AI, I'm curious to know more about the instruction that you've gotten from your instructors, from your professors, that has been most helpful for you in that line, in sort of like without crossing the line between tool and actually AI as tool versus AI as doing the work. Like, for example, were you given examples in the syllabus of what is an acceptable question of ChatGPT versus what is not? Like, was there guardrails around prompts, things like that? Thank you.
So I don't think that in any of my syllabi I've had that, but I know in a couple of Professor Virtue's classes we've had sections of classes where we have gone over that prompt engineering and what's acceptable, what's not. And I mean, if we're going to be frank, most students aren't going to put really what they do in that AI disclosure form. Like, I know it's meant for good reasons, but people don't want to suffer any repercussions if a teacher thinks they're overstepping. So I think maybe implementing that prompt engineering or showing an example at the start of the year, once like we've kind of gotten into the thick of it for classes, would help a lot. I think my experience with it has helped me kind of put my own guardrails up, but obviously everyone doesn't have those. And whenever students come for like my TA sessions, I try to explain those guardrails so that they're not overstepping or they aren't as nervous to kind of use AI. And I'm like, okay, let's put in the instructions for our Excel lab. We'll put it into Perplexity because you can kind of build your own atmosphere off of it. I don't know who's used Perplexity before, but you basically can feed it the information you want it to build off of, which I think is really useful because that I think instantly puts up at least one guardrail of we're not overarching into just endless Google searches, equations that you've never learned in class. And that can kind of start with this little bubble of, okay, let's only pull information that we've learned from this class. And then they're like, oh, really? I can do that. And I'm like, yeah. So let's start with that and then kind of move forward. But I definitely agree with what you were saying before. When you show someone how to use AI, instead of just like talk at them, it helps them learn so much more. And then if maybe you can have like a small AI interaction with them and like show them how to use it, they learn so much more on maybe the more ethical use of it.
With the guardrails, I think there's sort of a misconception that an inch is a mile, because a lot of my courses in SPA and SIS have no guardrails because they completely flat out say no AI at all, which is way worse than saying you can use a little bit of AI. So with guardrails, I think having any sort of, even if it's super narrow guardrails of you can only use Grammarly's AI to detect your tone, even that is better than nothing, because I'll use Grammarly or used to use Grammarly to detect my tone and to help with my writing and to help streamline it. But then a lot of SPA courses have started to say, you can't use that at all. Don't use any ChatGPT. Don't use any AI whatsoever. It's got to be completely handwritten. And I think that's the antithesis of what the point of AI is.
John Heath, SAS. First a comment, then a question. The comment is on brainstorming in a previous exchange. Shakespeare said, "Nothing comes from nothing." And my sense about brainstorming is that it's artificial to think that you can start with a blank slate. It's perfectly legitimate to start with what you've scraped from the internet or anywhere else, or the received wisdom, because without that input, you've got nothing to work with. So I think that's just a qualification. The question is a tougher one, and it's addressed to the students specifically, because you've shown yourselves to be very capable of handling difficult questions. What do you understand by unethical and, dare I say, illegal use of AI? And I want you to be very specific in your response. Thank you.
I told you not to hack into DHS.
I fear I'm not capable. Okay, I can kind of start with the illegal, like obviously plagiarism. We're not going to be, like, I won't do that. And I think it's really wrong because also since AI is web scraping, like a lot of the times it's going to pull, if you're just trying to copy paste writing, it's going to pull from these websites and stuff. And if you don't tell it certain ways to like reword stuff or how to present your tone, it could just copy and paste complete sentences. And if you're not looking over it, if you're not looking over your sources, you're going to be copying and pasting and plagiarizing without even knowing. So I think this goes back to kind of the guardrails, like putting your brain in that scenario to understand that you need to look over your work. You need to understand where your sources are coming from, and kind of back to what Aldi was saying, you can't just like take it from what you copied and pasted. You need to actually understand the process and see how you got from A to B. And I personally haven't just copied and pasted, so I feel like I can't give you the specific example, but I know there are students who do. But then there are also the students who have learned how to input their own tone into the writing, because you can also prompt engineer to give it your own actual writing and kind of get it to spit out writing that sounds like you. And then we're going to just enter a whole different level, I think, of AI writing. But then it comes to the question, so if it sounds like you, how are they even going to know? And sometimes I wonder if like the AI checkers even know what's human and what's not. I know we say that they're able to detect, but I know of many students who've been flagged for AI and they actually wrote it fully themselves. So I don't really know what we're going to kind of do about that. But I think setting up the guardrails and like explicitly trying to teach students that you should do it one way versus another would help.
I think when it comes to the ethics and what's illegal with using I like 100% of the time, I will never copy and paste. I'll never say exactly what it says, even if it's fully ChatGPT. Even if there's no plagiarism in what it responds with, that's still, in my view, somebody else's work. Even if it's not like a real person, like I always say, I try and use it as an assistant, like basically a roommate that I'm asking questions with. I try and have a conversation with it, and like when I do those brainstorming sessions, and I'll go to the notes that I have in a class, because when I take a class that professor is putting in those readings or teaching that class with a very specific intent in mind, and I want to be part of that specific intent with what I write. So I'll go over those notes and use those notes as the start for my brainstorm, and then brainstorm and have it be completely not streamlined, completely unorganized, and then try and organize it and then have a bit of a conversation with it to see if there's anything of value that I can gain from it, and then formulate a bit of a structure, a bit of a skeleton for if I'm writing an essay or if I'm making a project. But I'll never adhere even strictly to that skeleton or that outline that it gives me, because I want to sort of create as much of what I can completely on my own and completely with the intent of what the professor wants me to create.
Great. Well, I want to thank our 4 panelists who took some time out to share some ideas with you. I think next we have a coffee break. What time would you like folks to come back?
10 minutes.
So 3:05 sharp.